Hey, it's Shapes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest. We're over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out the past 2 weeks. From the 5th of March to the 18th of March. Bro, it looks so different. Oh my god. I was just like, I guess I'd seen myself in the mirror. Whatever. And I didn't do it again last week. Again, it just lack of videos, I think, and I feel like it feels like 2 weeks is that nice balancing point where I can get other stuff done and not strain myself after this every week, but then it's not like every month where it feels like it's way too much or something. So this is actually, I might stick with this this frequency. I just might. Anyway, but if next week there's just a lot of videos coming out, maybe next week, I don't know. And we're gonna start today's digest with a reaction video. I did. Osoweeb has this Akira Toriyama tribute. Honestly, like, for me, I wasn't so keen on Akira Toriyama videos right now. I know Jeff just put one out. I'm not super keen on watching ones right now, just because it's like, it's clearly so recent that like it just feels too soon. And not like in a disrespectful way, but in a clearly like, you're doing this for, right. But I'm okay with Osoweeb doing it because it's not like, because I know Osoweeb's doing that, like, does this for fun or whatever. It's performing pretty well for such reasons, right? But yeah, like I'm cool with it with Osoweeb, and I'll react. This seems like some kind of AMV type thing too, which I can also, appreciate as someone makes AMVs, but also like, I don't know, it's this nice in-between like immediate, like something you just saw the news and felt like you had to make a video about it. Those sorts of videos, very unscripted, whatever. And then like, I'll make this a video in my rotation for next week or for next 2 weeks or whatever. Yeah, or in like 2 weeks since his passing or whatever. I don't know. I know they all have very good. Everyone who's made a Toriyama video has obviously have the best of intentions and are totally within their right to do that. I just don't know. It's just me. It's just a me thing personally. I'm not trying to cast any moral judgment or something. But we're gonna watch this Osoweeb video though. I think this is cool. I believe this is one of the GT movies. I'm really not familiar with this material or this song, but this is very of the right vibe, you know? Yeah, I believe that's GT, right? Yeah. The forward to get the whole. Okay, yeah. Ooh, zoom, zoom, zoom. Getting the whole thing on yeah. Nice cut, yeah. Yeah. And then you're slowing that one down. Ooh. Yeah. A lot of speed ramping, a lot of weirdness in the Don't believe in the cut. Cuts are for Nice sync. Yeah, that was a good sync. Speed. And I'm gonna hold off my pedantic comment. Oh my gosh! Not about just the entire. That's the entire thing. I mean, wait a minute. It's still like going. Like this is a completely unbroken. That looked completely unedited. You literally just took the entire sequence and then shoved it into this period of the song. Ooh, that's a crazy shot. There's some parts that speed up a lot that are really funny, but of course the power up at the core. That's what you need. That's all you need. It's also just a very unique. Oh my gosh, and that actually kind of works with just how fast Goku moves, right? It's a good way to, also pretty fair way to get past Toei's bots. If this works, I'm wondering if this works or not. Woo! The wave kind of synced there too. I'm alive too, fellas. Ah. What an interesting way to end it too. Like it does. Wow. Okay. Aw. Aw, this is great. That was clutch. That was really nice. Yeah, I like that ending for sure. But then a lot of it would be like, oh, I enjoyed that because especially, I mean, like when you're pulling from like what would look like 4 different movies, it really doesn't go in like a rote. Sorry, it doesn't really go in a rote derivative place, and that is especially important with like DBZ AMV type of thing. I think that's something to really fight back against is or at least that you're trying to push back against is being predictable, I guess. Yeah, and I just really like the I did appreciate the song. Yeah, mixing the song. But yeah, that was really lovely. I enjoyed that a good deal. And yes, rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. But I said this as much as on Twitter, but when he passed, but he doesn't feel like he's passed away, really. And I can imagine that's the case with a lot of people who knew him personally. It's just like, what do you mean he's gone? Or just because of how alive his art is. And continues to be, like the fact that we're getting both a Sandman TV series and Dragon Ball Daima, where he made all these designs and wrote the entire story. That's really exciting. There's more Toriyama left to look forward to, you know. To me it wasn't as I don't know. And it may be also just be that like I don't have as strong of an attachment to him as other fans do, of course, which is fair. But it's also that like I know that I have more to experience and enjoy from him in terms of like I haven't seen Dr. Slump yet, and I'm looking forward to enjoying that. And it's just I don't know. I find it. Yeah, I just take the good with the unfortunate that like, you know, you didn't have. You know, he had more to give and everything. But he gave us so much, you know. I haven't played Chrono Trigger. I haven't even played Chrono Trigger yet. I'm so looking forward to playing that now. And there's just a way to just really appreciate what he did for humanity. Yeah. Anyway, rest in peace. Decent. Pretty good. Just starting really with some update videos or just yeah, there's a lot of these sorts of things, as usual. This first one, I wanted to mention this Aqua Lucas video where he's talking about dealing with burnout and, you know, putting down 5 different projects and not finding that he's capable of the ideas that he has and the standards that he's setting for himself, and even looking back at his old stuff, I mean, like I could do better here and here. Oh, that's nice, and I appreciate the reflection and retrospective, if anything, to like crystallize this sort of thing. It's not like a channel update so much as it's just like how like a vibe check almost. And I mean, him using the YKK footage in this instance, a lot of that and what just the video reminded me of is one of 2 update videos I've made on my main channel. I think there's only 2. I can't think of another one really. And one of them is obviously the last year's I'm Not Happy. But then long time ago, it's technically one of my first videos, really. It's like one of the first like less than 10 videos I put out. It was right after my Berserk video, and I worked all summer, so I couldn't make anything, and I had this big project idea, so that was really what killed a lot of my initial momentum with YouTube, because like I clearly got this incredible kind of really good viral success and then didn't really follow it up with anything and got very disappointed with the performance of the next video. But it was just a video of me kind of like I'm not dead type of thing, and it was only like 6 months since I had uploaded, and it's like it's not that long, but I feel like I've had longer periods of time than that. Oh well, oh well. But I was worried about, and then I ended up putting out the video like maybe 3 weeks after that. It was really not that bad. Anyway, it just reminded me of those vibes, and I'm like, yeah, YKK is just like a great series to set this sort of video to. It just reminded me of that. Yeah, and just being transparent about these sorts of things, I appreciated it. Yeah, I was spurred on to talk about it for those reasons. It felt, but yeah, I was happy for the update and looking forward to what you do have cooking. But the mind space, it's good to hear about. JoJo Talks Too Much is back with starting again from zero, and this made it feel like, oh, he's kind of coming back and weaning off like the Underhill stuff, and that's not true. He's just restarting this as like a thing that he wants to do. He misses it and everything, and he's still doing the Underhill thing, which the new design because I saw in the end card looks really nice. This looks really nice. I don't really follow the VTuber stuff really, so I haven't been following his content over there. But it's nice that like he has like, this is my main channel, like the thing that I'm still working on and everything. But this is just something as a side thing I wanted to do. I also noticed that Alan Z also came back after a little while of a break, and he's trying to reshift his content a bit to do more compilations of reactions instead of a whole video as one episode, which I think is a fair middle ground, especially where he is with One Piece and everything. But just reminded me of that sort of thing. And this particular video, again, like I like mentioned, he's like, I'm not much of a visual person. I'm like, that's interesting that you ended up making YouTube videos then, because I guess that makes sense where there's not really an audio. It's not like a podcast. I guess you could do it in podcast, but that's, yeah, I get it. I think YouTube's interesting. But it was just interesting to hear. It was like, I'm not like oh yeah, you make videos. No, like I'm not trying to hold it over you or anything like that, but yeah, just stood out to me. But the visuals you did choose, at least for this update video, it was the same kind of like maybe 30 seconds of seems like stock footage, I guess. I honestly, it looked so nice that I actually thought it was something that you were filming, and then it kept looping a bit, and then you had mentioned that, and I was just like, oh, okay, this is probably just whatever footage then. But it was just like him, like it was like someone walking through like snow along like some train tracks, and then being on the train, and I don't know, it was actually like something I was able to kind of keep my attention. It was good enough that I could I was willing to watch it instead of just like listen to it as I did something. But yeah, I don't know. I always appreciate that for update videos or any kind of video like this. It's like, oh, at least give me something. I'm not just like having to hear it or whatever, because it's not grabbing my attention or whatever, but I still want to hear what he's saying. Yeah, but I just want to bring those two up, I guess. Anime Music Podcast, I believe that was the original name, rebranded to 100% Umbrella 100%. And I really like this discussion clip from their stream. I believe it is. Why is trailer music like this? Yeah, and I really like this format of like being able to kind of stream like being I popped in one of their streams, that's how I know that they do that. But then like taking those streams and then cutting them up as highlights instead of like sitting down to record a video type deal. I think it's just a smart way of going about it. But I like the topic here, referring to this trailer for one of these upcoming DreamWorks movies, that has this like sad rendition of this like kind of a well-known song or whatever, and the particular kinds of instrumentation they're using to give off this certain vibe that it feels like very cliche at this point. Totally agree. And it is only when someone points it out as a cliche, or like they always do this, that it always registers for me as like, oh yeah, that's a trope, that's a thing. Even though I don't know, they didn't really they didn't go into like pointing out other trailers that did this, but I think we could all kind of think of examples, or necessarily break this one down into so much detail. I think they were just talking about general practice and the vibes and what that leads to, and even from a perspective of a composer, of someone who's tasked with making the trailer music or something, of your responsibilities, and like expectations, audience expectations. I really like, and Core highlighted it as well, that when Shabu mentioned that like these creatives would very much rather play it safe than try to experiment and do something interesting, on the chance that somebody along the chain of approvals says no and you have to change it, and that's more work for you. That doesn't necessarily translate into pay, depending on how you're being compensated, which is very sad. But it's totally true, totally fucking true. Like yeah, I've made several trailers actually, where I had specific music, and then when it went through for approval, they like changed the music, and you're syncing the trailer to the music. So when you say change the music, I have to re-edit the entire trailer effectively. Like I ended up kind of like, because there's time limits and there's sort of like oh, we need to get this soon, or like a quick turnaround and for this type of thing, or whatever. And so it's like, okay, I'll just, or creatively you're at your bandwidth, or that's a really disheartening thing to do to someone you're commissioning, or to a project like this. So it's like I kind of stripped it back to like, oh, I'm only going to really use the same shots I was using in this initial cut, and just reassemble and retime them in such a way that you get the trailer that you have now. I've had to do that. I did that literally twice in a row, and it was so obnoxious. And I'm still doing them. I'm still making trailers, but like we're being a lot more safe about that, because it's like such a nightmare. Or like pulling teeth to pull like stock music, like, well, not stock music so much as like pulling from premiumbeat.com or something, like paying for like a license for this very royalty free type whatever music, which is fine, it can work, it's suitable, but it's like I would, at least with the anime trailers that I make, it's like it makes more sense to me to take from the show's OST, or use the show's OP, use the show's opening, but it doesn't always turn out that way. So yeah, that was just great. It was a good discussion. I appreciate it, and I'm happy that this is the groove that you guys are finding yourselves in and are being more active. I'm excited. Animebackwhen Rek has been doing these babbles, as he calls them. It's just one take, no cutting of anything, and just going off the dome almost. I think he had some stuff that it didn't look like he had anything pulled up or like notes or anything, and he was just at points where he was just like looking at his like shelf of his collection of things, just to remind himself of things. But I think that's probably part of the appeal and the charm of it, just like what he has at the top, off the dome, as it were. But this one's about anime decades being ranked. And I think he had that, at least he had that planned. Like he's not like thinking about it in the moment of the video, but he has like he probably had that ready. But all of that. And the rankings are not on screen. I was about to like they spoiled the thumbnail, and they're not, and that's cool. And I think the rankings was fair. It's not really my place to be like, you're wrong about this or whatever. But I think what could have improved, or at least, I guess if I was doing something like this, if it were me, which I know you're not me, it's fine. Obviously I put way too much effort into it. That's it. I would be way too nerdy about it, I think. So I appreciate that you're willing to kind of put this stuff out, and in this kind of casual format that because again, you're so very interesting to listen to, and like you still like keep attention and everything the whole time, even if there's no visuals or anything. I think you do a pretty good job with that. I guess for me, I think what was really was the best part of your ranking was always when you listed off the titles that you're referring to, of like why they're the representative sample, basically. Because like especially when you're going into 60s and 70s, I had no frame of reference to what you even experienced out of the 60s and 70s for you to say that, for you to rank them where you did. You know, what are the titles in each of these decades that convinces you that it is in the place that it is? You know, and I think you did a really good job articulating that for the 2000s, most especially, actually, the way you rapid fire all these shows, like this show, this show, this show, this show. But then, yeah, clearly the 90s and everything in a similar vein. But the other ones, it's like, I don't know what you're judging it off by. And you can obviously, you haven't seen everything. I haven't seen everything. No one has, really. Very few people. Actually, there might be a handful of you out there. It's crazy. But it's just sort of seeing, like, what are you taking this from? Or is it something you're perceiving out of the covers you're seeing on Mal and what you're choosing to engage and experience with or purchase, since you've been such a big collector in the past. Yeah, but I like the perspective, and I do enjoy the format a good deal. Yeah, it was nice. And we have 2 game show type videos, or I don't know. I'm in that headspace as someone who, if you're a painter of mine, might be aware of the thing that I'm working on or thinking of or workshopping. So, you know, seeing other YouTubers dabble in this space is interesting to me. And the first one's from Rustage's second channel, which I was not subscribed to. I was subscribed to Rustage, but I wasn't to his second channel, and I only found out about it because I follow Briggs on Twitter, and he retweeted this, and I was just like, oh, game thing, anime quiz on YouTube. And Russ just seems to be doing this like bracket type tournament with it's just one-on-one, and they're certain content creators and pitting them against each other, and he's like, oh, this person, you advanced to the semifinals or whatever. I'm like, okay, so it feels like a swath of videos, but he's not gonna like he seems to love doing it, so that's encouraging. I always just like when creators are open, you know, very vocal about like, I really like this, so we're like, I'm having a lot of fun doing this or whatever. But this is like anime only Connect quiz, and it's the format that I think is on this one show that Tom Scott was on. I keep referencing, or just I don't know. But it's the like, you're getting a certain number of points if you guess what the trend is based on the first clue, and then the points reduce the more clues you get, and you only get like 4 clues or so to guess what the commonality is between the 4 things. And these were not, my brain was not attuned to this. I couldn't get almost any of them. They were very, very hard, to me at least, or just they weren't in the same. I wasn't just in the right headspace for a lot of them. They were very clever, I guess, in that way. And the contestants here actually had a pretty hard time too, so I was appreciative of that. But they still got them for the most part. It's not like they were both floundering or anything. But I was like, oh wow, definitely not the same headspace as me. But with, I guess, like, that was just I think my only real nitpick thing is just that, like, again, it's always derived upon what are the shows that you've seen. So it's all One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, a little bit DBZ. There was like an instance where one of the contestants was like, I have no idea what that show is, this anime. They've never seen this, and I didn't even recognize it either, to be honest with you. It seemed like some high school rom-com thing. I actually don't remember or recognized it. And there's that the fundamental the rub with anime quizzes is this, like, you need to know these particular shows, just these particular shows, and then you don't get the broad swath of what anime has, you know. But yeah, and even just what both contestants are familiar with, right? And that narrows it even more. But it's just something to consider. And this other video up next is kind of goes in that direction, but it's very interesting. But yeah, I liked. I think Rustage was a great host. Especially, and he kept bringing up his brother is the one that like came up with some of the questions and also was like able to answer all of them and stuff. And it's like, if there's any misinformation, don't blame me, type of thing. And I didn't really sense anything wrong with them, and I think all the questions seemed fair. It was just I was just not in the right headspace, or just didn't. They were just caught me off guard, and so I think that lends to an interesting quiz actually, at least, which is another hard balance to land on. But yeah, I liked the format a good deal. But this other game quiz type thing is self-imposed by Colleen, guessing my friend's favorite manga. And yeah, this was very interesting because they put themselves in like a very very specific, like a very hard position where you have to know these other creators' favorites. And I definitely think I felt like I knew that more for anime, at least, and this is for manga. But I knew that for several of my mutuals because I was on Hummingbird so much, or Kitsu, formerly Hummingbird, and I knew a lot of these people based on their favorites. But now that I'm really just on Twitter and YouTube and everything and Discord, there really isn't that as much for me these days. And also, I'm just not great at being that thoughtful. So Colleen is definitely demonstrating their thoughtfulness, but to their friends here. It's quite the flex, and it was obviously not easy it wasn't really. I wouldn't even say it's possible as a viewer unless you knew these creators. Like the only creator I knew in this, Anime T I knew, but I didn't really know any of their favorites. And Danny, I knew Danny, and I follow them on Twitter, so I had a good feeling of what their favorites are. And when theirs came up, I was like, oh yeah, I think I know that who that is. But there's a very difficult challenge of like you have 30 possible answers, and you have just these 3 manga, some of which Colleen may not have even heard of, and you're trying to feel like which of these 30 mutuals of yours is their all time or their favorites. And I think the true appeal of this video that ended up hooking me really was just Colleen's logic and reaction to the guessing. Colleen had their husband compile everything for them, and so their reaction to getting things right was always like a fuck yeah, and like really like euphoric. We are so, I think a comment, one of the top comments was like the energy of we are so back and it's so over is very strong here. Colleen is very euphoric or like in despair every time they get a question like right or wrong. The high intensity of the emotion was really exciting and fun, even though it's like I wouldn't have any idea of whether they're right or wrong or not. Like I'm like, oh yeah, that's not, or what. I think again the only one I really knew was Danny. So there was like 2 or 3 times where Colleen guessed it was Danny, and I'm like, that's not, no, there's no witch hat atelier, it couldn't be Danny, that sort of thing. But that's very rare for me, and especially impossible when I didn't really know almost anyone else that I could recognize at least. But yeah, I thought this was really, really interesting in the way that like Colleen puts themselves on the line of like how well Colleen knew their friends and everything. And maybe that was why they felt so distraught over getting it wrong. It's like I don't know you that well, or I don't know you as well as I hoped I would, or I thought I would, or whatever. Yeah, and I can understand that, and putting themselves out there like that and risking that, I guess it was very is another kind of strong tension or appeal, I guess. But I liked that Colleen did frame it often as, you got me. Like you pulled one over. Is like, oh, you missed what, instead of like, I'm so sorry, or it wasn't anything like that. I thought it was good framing of this sort of challenge, which kind of feels very interpersonal, like how well you know this person. Like it's like the Newlywed Game almost, and I can imagine that led to a lot of like consternation between relationships and everything. But yeah, I thought that was a very unique idea, and led to an exciting video. Okay, now with a thought with the best videos of the week. And this is great. And first was from Kamimashita, Sashiburi, specifically about his r/anime awards manifesto, about being a judge for this long, like being a part of it, and since 2017. I guess it's been since 2017, if not 2018. So you had the live stream. You were hosting a live stream in 2018. But man, I truly, like, he's reached out to me. I've participated in it for about 2 years now, and I'm very grateful for it, because it's like, you're actually getting some actual industry people to react to what you're doing here, and you have a whole community and everything. And I'm not like on Reddit or on /anime or anything. So to invite me on for the past 2 years has been, I'm very encouraged by it, like, really, because it's, again, with YouTube being such an island, and there's so many other bigger creators and stuff like that, like, I don't know, it's really meaningful to me that I can be a part of it in that way. But yeah, but I say all that in a way that it's just, I didn't have that much attachment to it, because I didn't really participate in any of the nominations or voting, and I haven't really even seen a lot of the shows that we're talking about. I just happen to not be watching seasonals a lot, and I hope it doesn't come across in a weird, mean way, or I don't know, but like, I really didn't realize how much this means to you, and it's very encouraging, but also, like, I feel a little bad in ways that, like, I'm this is how much I care about it as someone that's being invited to present some of the awards, and I'm like that's flattering and everything, but then, like, just how much you've put in, how much community you've built with these people, and how much work you've put in, and how much it means to you as a pursuit. It's just as the thing you do in your life. It's like, I've never really done anything, and it's pushed me in this ways. This was just so heartwarming to hear from, and just learning more about you as a person in this way. This was just very encouraging and welcomed. But I know you don't count this as a real video or anything. I get that, but I think I really like it as, like, one of my favorites from you, just to sheer out of, like, getting to know you more, and vulnerability, and I don't know, just that sort of thing. It just really sticks with me a lot. So yeah, appreciate it, and this was lovely, really, really great. Totally not Mark got me with the bait with the like, what Usopp's missing. I'm like, I'm like, not in a negative way, in a, like, yeah, I'm talking to speculate what Usopp needs for the L bath. And Mark does not go that route. That's really just how it's titled, and I like that the route that it went was more of, again, I expected it to be retrospective, but his conclusions about Usopp, I think, were really apt, and his adamancy that, like, Usopp versus Luffy is, like, the best fight of the series up to that point, I was surprised by, but I'm like, respecting the sticking the flag there. I mean, Water 7 is still my favorite arc too, in a large part because of Usopp, and I'm not to nitpick the video or anything, because God, it's fucking One Piece. Like, this 30 minutes, and you only talk to, there's only so much it's like, there's a lot you could talk about, right? But, like, the moment, and I know editor, or it could be editor, or also, other folks worked on it, but I did catch that the shot of Usopp crying to Nami about losing the money, and he's like, I can't face everybody, that was shown in the video, but not in the context of, like, really appreciating that moment, that like that sequence of him losing it, him breaking down in front of Nami, and then trying to go get it himself without trying to tell anybody and gets his ass kicked, and then he's unconscious while the rest of them go and do what he can't, and he's not there to appreciate that he is a valued member of the crew. Oh my god. it really it's yeah, so I'm not like bad video because you didn't mention my favorite moment or something, and not like that, but it's just like, it goes to show just the sheer amount of like the breadth of this series, and that a lot of that has to do with its length, of just having to cover all these things, and yeah, reminding me of certain, you know, moments in the Perona fight, which is great, and I really like the observation where every time he has a success, he wants, at least in pre-time skip, he wants people to notice and appraise it, and it isn't until, I believe it mentioned that it's not until Dressrosa's his second encounter with Teddy Bear Girl, his impossible shot. It's not until that point where he's like, I don't need it. That's great. I'm happy I was able to help here and go on and kick his ass, you know, in that supporting role. Man, but it's like he's already proven himself as a brave warrior, and the only thing left to his goal, and I didn't end up watching the Zoro and Nami video, so I really don't know how much you've really harked on they need to have this goal in mind the whole time. Like, Usopp being a brave warrior of the sea, yes, it's something that matters, and it matters to him, but doesn't matter to the story as a whole. Because I'm sure you might be aware, but I don't know if you hold this opinion or not, but people consider it a flaw of One Piece that Nami, and at least Nami, but you could argue for Sanji as well, or whatever, and maybe make the argument for Usopp here, even though your analysis proves that, like, it's not a matter of, he's technically already gotten it, it's just a matter of proving it to himself. But this idea that, like, Nami hasn't drawn the map, that she's wanted them to draw the map of the world, and her goal hasn't been addressed at all, or any progress towards that, and that's a problem with the series. I don't know if you hold that. I certainly don't, personally, but yeah, it just reminded me of that framing of the pivoting, I guess, because I mean, I think it's a fair enough fair enough thing to make. But it was interesting that you really didn't dabble into anything about, like, speculation. I don't know how much you can care about speculation, really, because a lot of your content and stuff you talk about is in it's already completed sense. You know what I mean? You don't really have to speculate about Bleach when it's done. You know, it's like, maybe you could in the middle of reading or something, like, I would like this for the character or something, but it's not the same with, like, but One Piece isn't done. You know what I mean? So it's just like, what does this current arc need or whatever? And you don't even talk about any Egghead or anything. Not like Usopp's had anything in Egghead, but it reminded me even of just the latest chapter. Just minor thing, I'm not going to spoil a ton, whatever, but just like him, like, calling Sanji, like, yeah, the boat stopped, and him calling him that, him calling Sanji that, like, here's the situation, not mentioning that he's the one that saved the Sunny from going over the labo phase. And Brooke's like, see, we stopped, and Lila's like, yeah, no thanks to Usopp, and, like, it's Usopp's credit, like, he actually did that and it leans into what you were saying about Usopp's utility as sort of an everyman, but just as a, like, he does a ton of stuff, you know, and stuff that's not a specific role. And I like that, like, yeah, it just, like, you wanted him to be his Zoro's sword for a little bit, then yeah, Usopp's gonna do that, that sort of thing. But you're totally right, where it's like, he does have these particular moments in Wano and in Dressrosa, of course, that, like, he just finds ways to help, but not in a way that he's the main person. He's not the captain, as the way he had this chip on his shoulder of, like, I'm the captain type of thing. But just finding ways that he helps, like, yeah, making being the only one that's artistic enough to make a flag, that sort of thing. But even, like, him stopping the boat like that, and him not bragging about that, like, hey, I stopped the boat. He says, like, the boat stopped. We got the boat to, you know, we're all ready to go. but he's so laser focused while still being himself, I guess. Yeah. But I can understand that of the perspective not wanting to this analysis series to be like a list or something, a list of accomplishments or whatever, and not being super holistic and everything, especially because it's not done. But that's, I guess that's what I'm sorry if I'm being so circular and repetitive with this off the cuff, but yeah, just like not mentioning Yasop at all, his dad, and not mentioning it's like, oh, Elbath's got to do this, because everyone wants big things for Usopp, and I definitely think for me, I've tempered my expectations for that, because clearly that's not a prerogative for Oda with these characters, because it is just a matter of like, okay, he goes to Elbath and what? It's not just that he goes to, he has to do, there has to be something for him to do, and not just like, oh, that's great, like what exactly do you want? Oh, something. But like, yeah, I've definitely have to temper my expectations since Egghead, where like, oh, Egghead, Vegapunk, Frankie stuff, great, and no. Unfortunately, no. It's okay. That's fine. That's great. Fine. Yeah, so I'm holding that, but I'm not like, it's not a flaw, it's fine. It's fine. It's just not what I wanted. It's fine. It's still good. It's still very good, but it's just, yeah. But I like that this video didn't even really dabble in that. It was actually very refreshing in that way. But yeah, liked the video a good deal, and have been joining these anatomy. It's really only the second one I didn't watch Zoranami, but I definitely should. Yeah. Yeah. And lastly, I wanted to what I give the best video, I guess. I'd give this to this 2-hour podcast that Yiman did with the JJK animator. Oh my, because it's obviously not in the video title. Lee Kree's. Lee Kree is the one that had that pop-off video, and Yiman takes pretty much the exact same thumb. And I didn't end up covering it. I just missed it, I think. I really just missed it in the time period that came out. I was like, oh, I'll just I'll cover it in when they release part 2, because they said that this JJK vid's a part 1 or whatever. But based on this podcast, I mean, it's the assimilation of all that, as well as her reactions to making the video, like her feelings around making it, and it just feels the whole thing just felt very substantive and fascinating to hear this perspective directly from people I know. This is the thing of like American animators that are getting Twitter DMs from production assistants, getting them to work on this anime thing, and just getting roped into that sort of thing. Except I think Lee Kree's perspective is even more valuable. Not like that everyone else's isn't valuable, but I especially like it because Lee Kree works directly in American animation for a long time, working with A24, working with Sesame Street, with Nickelodeon, et cetera, working on Castlevania Nocturne around the same time as JJK, and so having that comparison, that compare and contrast with the two industries, and then yeah, working on anime for about 2 years now, and to the point where she's in talks to becoming an animation director of a particular show that's not announced yet. But like that's just really cool, and I could tell it like, and it's also just a great perspective in someone that got caught up in this this terrible loop of deadline and hey, can you animate these cuts and these cuts, because I can relate to this. She was so fast on the return, regardless of pay. The fact that she was so communicative versus these other people, that the reason they're asking her to do all these more additional cuts is because these other guys are flaking or they can't respond or sick or whatever. Her being there and available is what makes her valuable, and that was why she talks about this, despite being a harrowing experience that she's now going to therapy for, it's actually unlocked way more opportunities for her. They're like, oh, she's one of us, that like, regardless of pay and regardless of whatever, she's willing to have this she's fast and she's good. you know, like that's what they care about. And it's like, okay, that we can rely on you. And I think her talking about it where like, I don't want to let down, not really the fans. I like that she didn't really bring up the fans so much. She really didn't want to let down the people she was having communications with, the production assistants that are losing their minds and are on the hook, or, you know, just the people that are they're more on the hook than she is as a freelance person. That's just, you know, that she just got commissioned to do the couple cuts or whatever, but like, she's not like in charge of something. She didn't want to let these people down. And I can totally relate to that as someone who's doing work for free. Not my boss, never my boss, never ever ever my boss. It is a different job that I'm still doing, but I'm doing some work because I'm doing work without compensation. It's partly clout. It's like, oh, I get to do this thing. I don't really care if I'm getting paid or not. I get to do it, and that's cool. And I don't care, you know, like that's fine to me. And I am also in a financial position to afford to do that. I can afford to do that. I might not be able to afford to do that in a different context or period or whatever. And another thing is just like, I know that in this other instance where I'm not being paid, I know that if I don't do it this way, that I offer to do it this way, and I'm like, I don't care if I'll just do it. I know that the solution is the cost efficient doodle you know, just put it out there, and I'm not satisfied with that. So it's so there's for me at least, not necessarily for Lee, it's it is a bit of a clout thing, but it's also I want it to be done this. I have an opportunity to have it be in this cool way. I want to see it done this way, and I don't, you know, come hell or high water, come being paid for it or not. And it is what it is, and that's my choice. That's my choice, and I like that it's my choice. I prefer that it's my choice instead of doing it just because that's not a healthy thing or something. I don't necessarily. Maybe I should in some instances. I should in some, you know, in other contexts or whatever. Especially if it's something I don't want to do, then yeah, I should probably get out of that exploitative situation. But this is exploitative, but I don't care. That's the thing. I don't care. Anyway, about me. I don't know. Just obviously, I think this is one of my favorites because I related to it a lot as someone who's also a freelance worker, doing whatever. And then her talking about animating on a drawing pad, and as I'm listening, I'm working on my drawing pad doing these things. I just felt this this nice kinship, I guess. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that second part of hers. But it doesn't sound like that's a huge prerogative for her, and it's the whole scary thing that she was doing, and she talks about the kind of the psychological challenge of making it, which I also appreciated. And hey, I mean, shoutouts to Yiman for making this interview happen at all, and answering very good asking very good questions. I think guiding the conversation when they're listening, and following up things or clarifying, hey, what is that? What is a PA? What is layout? And yeah, like doing all the right things, I think, and not being super prying about personal details or asking for anything major or anything like that, or being obnoxious with NDAs or what, I don't know. There's plenty of ways you could do this wrong, and I think Yiman did it all the right ways. Even just sampling questions from his chat was a really great idea, and I also appreciated in the video itself there was a lot of visual aid with like some of the stuff, cuts from Lee Cree's video, and other just general animation stuff. That was also a great touch, despite not having in like the major like editing, like cutting out pauses and stuff like that, which I think is fine. Like, I think it's fine if the environment is something candid. It's like that's what Fantano does with his interviews, and it gave me that vibe, and I think that was great. And I would love more of that. Really, I think this was excellent. Yeah, but and of course, you know, reaching out to fellow creators and stuff like that is always something I always love. Anyway, yeah, love the podcast, and very appreciated of the I don't know if I could call it podcast, actually, sorry, the interview. Yeah, then it was lovely. Definitely guys check it out, especially if you know, took a lot from that initial video. This probably has all of it, if not more. And getting to know Lee Cree more, I just think it was great. Okay, that'll do for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You have a great week. Or 2 weeks. Yo, peace.